"Oh no! I am innocent. Do you think I will kill my only daughter?" Mr. Kofi was framed for the mysterious disappearance of his daughter. But when he uncovered the truth, he stumbled into a realm beyond reality, where the missing were trapped. Just when he thought he could save them, Olivia, his daughter, was killed before his eyes. But what happened next will leave you speechless. Did Kofi change fate? Did he escape the spirits? Stay tuned, because this story is unlike anything you've ever heard. Kofi Owusu still remembered the last time he saw his wife, Monica. It had been an ordinary day, no omens, no warnings, just a promise of return. She had kissed him goodbye at the Accra airport, her hands lingering in his just a moment too long. The flight was bound for Kinshasa, where she was set to attend an international medical conference. But somewhere over the dense, uncharted forests of the Congo, the plane vanished from radar. Rescue teams scoured the jungle, but no wreckage was ever found. The official report concluded she was lost, but Kofi never accepted that fate. For years, he lived in torment, raising their daughter, Olivia, alone while clinging to the hope that Monica was still out there. Some nights, he would dream of her, calling his name, her voice echoing through the trees, but he always woke to an empty bed. Despite the world moving on, Kofi remained stuck in time, unable to grieve, unable to accept. Olivia, now a teenager, had her own struggles. She missed a mother she barely remembered and resented the ghost of a woman who still controlled their lives. The distance between father and daughter grew, but neither of them knew that fate was about to unravel once again. It was supposed to be a regular afternoon. Olivia had left for school as usual, her mood tense after yet another argument with Kofi. She wanted independence, freedom from the suffocating weight of loss. Kofi, overprotective and paranoid, couldn't let go. When she didn't return home by evening, he assumed she was at a friend's house. But when midnight arrived with no word, a creeping dread took hold. The next morning, he called her friends. None had seen her. The police took his report but treated it as a teenage runaway case. Days passed, then weeks, and the whispers began accusations that Kofi had done something to his daughter. Old wounds resurfaced, people remembering how he had never accepted Monica's death. Some said grief had driven him mad, that perhaps he couldn't bear losing Olivia too. And then, the police came knocking, with no evidence, no witnesses, and only the weight of suspicion. Kofi was arrested. He protested, pleaded, but the world had already turned against him. As he sat in the cold cell, hands trembling, one thought echoed through his mind. If Olivia was gone, where was she? The cell smelled of sweat and despair. The walls, painted an institutional gray, seemed to close in on Kofi. His mind raced through every possibility. Who would take Olivia? And why? The interrogation room was even colder than the cell. A detective, tall and lean with sharp eyes that saw through lies, sat across from him. "We have reason to believe you were the last person to see Olivia. That's because I'm her father," Kofi snapped, frustration bubbling up. "I didn't do anything to her. I love my daughter." The detective leaned back, studying him. "Grief can make people do terrible things, Kofi." Kofi slammed his fists on the table. "I would never hurt her." But the evidence against him was mounting. A neighbor claimed to have heard shouting the night before Olivia disappeared. The school reported she had been withdrawn and unhappy. The worst part? The police found blood stains in Olivia's bedroom, stains Kofi couldn't explain. "You think I killed my own daughter?" Kofi whispered, his voice breaking. "We don't know what to think," the detective replied. "But until we find her, you're our only suspect." Days turned into weeks. Kofi remained behind bars, his only company the unshakable fear that Olivia was truly gone. But then, a visitor arrived, his old friend Kwame. "Kofi, I believe you," Kwame said as soon as they were alone. "And I'm going to prove your innocence." Kwame had always been the rational one, a journalist with a nose for the truth. He had dug into the case and found inconsistencies. The blood in Olivia's room? It wasn't hers. The supposed witness who heard the shouting had been drunk that night. But the most chilling discovery was this: Olivia's disappearance wasn't an isolated case. Over the last 5 years, other young girls had vanished under similar circumstances. None were ever found. She was taken. Kofi murmured, his heart pounding. By whoever took those other girls. But who? And why? On the night Kofi's bail was finally granted, he returned home to a place that no longer felt like his own. The house was eerily quiet, every shadow whispering of Olivia's absence. Then he saw it, a single note left on her desk. It hadn't been there before. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the message sent a shiver down his spine. Find the door, and you will find the truth. Kofi had no idea what it meant, but he was no longer alone in this nightmare. Someone knew something. Someone was watching, and if he wanted to save Olivia, he had to follow the clues. Kofi retraced Olivia's last steps, searching for answers. He followed her route home, scanning every detail. That's when he found a strange marking on a wall near the school, a spiral etched into stone, the same spiral that appeared in his dreams of Monica. Something supernatural was at play. With Quaim's help, he investigated the symbol and found it tied to an old legend, the legend of the unseen realm, a place where the lost were trapped. If Olivia had been taken there was only one way to get her back. Find the door, and step into a world no living men had entered before. The spiral symbol haunted Kofi. It appeared in his dreams, in the forgotten corners of the city, even in Olivia's old notebooks. Was she trying to tell him something? With Quaim's help, he traced the origin of the symbol to an obscure myth, an ancient Congolese legend about a doorway that led to the unseen realm, a place where spirits and the missing resided. The key to entering? Blood, loss, and desperate love. One night, standing before the spiral carved into the stone wall, Kofi made his choice. He pressed his palm against the cold stone and whispered his daughter's name. A gust of wind howled, the sky darkened, and then without warning the wall swallowed him whole. Kofi landed with a heavy thud. The air here was thick, electric. He was no longer in Ghana. The sky above him was neither day nor night, an eerie twilight stretching infinitely. Strange trees twisted into unnatural shapes, and the ground pulsed beneath his feet. A whisper curled around him. You shouldn't be here. Kofi turned, his breath hitching. A figure stood before him, a man draped in tattered cloth, his eyes like empty voids. Who are you? Kofi demanded. The figure cocked his head. You seek the lost, my daughter, Kofi said. Olivia, and my wife. The man smirked. The unseen realm does not return what it takes so easily. Kofi clenched his fists. Then I'll take them back myself. The man only laughed. Let's see if you survive first. As Kofi ventured deeper into the realm, he realized he wasn't alone. Shadows moved between trees, eyes glowing in the darkness. He was being followed. Then, a whisper came again. Turn back before it's too late. Ignoring it, Kofi pressed forward. The deeper he went, the more the landscape shifted, bending like a living thing. He saw things that defied reason, a river flowing upward, houses with no doors, echoes of laughter in the wind. And then, he saw Olivia, or at least, he thought he did. She stood just beyond reach, staring at him, but when he ran toward her, she vanished. A cruel trick. And the shadows around him began to close in. Kofi barely had time to react. Creatures with elongated limbs and hollow faces emerged from the trees. Their whispers became a deafening hum, and one of them lunged. He barely dodged, rolling across the ground. His heart pounded. He had no weapons, no plan, just desperation. Then, out of nowhere, an arrow shot through the air, striking one of the creatures in the chest. It shrieked and dissolved into mist. A woman stepped forward, holding a bow. She had dark skin, braided hair, and eyes that glowed with unnatural light. You're either very brave, she said, or very stupid. Kofi exhaled in relief. Who are you? I am Nya, she said, and if you want to survive, you'll follow me. Nya led Kofi through the twisted terrain, her presence commanding. The unseen realm is not just for the dead, she explained. It is for those who are lost, those who were taken, and those who made a bargain they could not escape. Like my wife? Kofi asked. Nya hesitated. Perhaps. They reached a village, hidden between warped trees. Spirits moved here, some translucent, some eerily human. It was a halfway world, neither life nor death. Kofi noticed something alarming. Many of them wore chains around their wrists. They are prisoners, Nya admitted, bound by unfinished business, or by a greater force that refuses to let them go. And then he saw her, Monica, trapped behind a veil of shimmering energy. Monica, Kofi ran toward her, but the moment he did, pain shot through his body, as if invisible hands were holding him back. The barrier separating them was unbreakable. She turned, her eyes widening. Kofi? Her voice, it was real, alive, but she looked the same as she did years ago, untouched by time. How is this possible? Kofi choked out. Monica reached for him, but her hand met the barrier. I don't know, she whispered. But you shouldn't have come here. Nya pulled Kofi back. She is bound, she said gravely, and the price to free her may be more than you can afford. Kofi wasn't listening. He had found her. Now, he just needed to bring her home. Just as Kofi was about to demand answers, the whispers returned. This time, one word echoed through the air. Olivia. Kofi's head snapped up. She's here too, isn't she? Naya's expression darkened. If she was taken, she is in the lower depths. Kofi's blood turned to ice. Take me there. Nya hesitated. If we go, there is no turning back. I don't care, Kofi said. She's my daughter. Nya studied him, then sighed. Then we must prepare, because the lower depths are where the worst souls dwell, and not all of them are human. The path to the lower depths was treacherous. The world itself seemed to resist them, the air growing heavier, the light dimming. Kofi felt a weight pressing on his chest, an invisible force trying to pull him back, but he pushed forward. Then, a sound. Crying. He turned a corner and froze. Children, dozens of them, sitting in the shadows, their eyes hollow. Olivia could be among them. Kofi rushed forward, but Nya grabbed his arm. Wait! Before he could ask why, the children turned their heads in unison, and their mouths stretched into horrifying smiles. The children, if they could be called that, began to move, their limbs twisting unnaturally. Kofi took a step back. What are they? Trapped souls, Nya whispered. They were taken here long ago. Kofi clenched his fists. Then we free them. Nya shook her head. Not yet. First, we find your daughter. One of the creatures stepped forward. You seek the girl? Its voice was layered, as if many voices spoke at once. Kofi's breath hitched. Yes. The creature grinned wider. Then you must give something in return. Kofi swallowed hard. What do you want? It giggled. A memory. A precious one. And before Kofi could react, it reached inside his mind. Pain exploded through Kofi's skull as the creature's hand plunged into his mind. He gasped, feeling something being pulled away, something vital. Images of Olivia's childhood flickered before him. Her first steps, the way she used to giggle when Monica lifted her into the air, her favorite lullaby. Then darkness. When Kofi opened his eyes, something felt wrong. He still remembered Olivia, still knew she was his daughter, but something was missing. A piece of her. The creature grinned, licking its lips. A fair trade. Kofi stumbled forward, his head throbbing. Where is she? The creature pointed toward a gaping abyss. Down there. Kofi peered into the chasm. The shadows moved unnaturally. Something was waiting. Let's go, he whispered. Nya hesitated. You don't understand. That place. It changes you. I don't care. Kofi snapped. I came here for my daughter. Nya studied him before sighing. Then hold on. Together, they leaped into the abyss. The descent was endless. The air grew colder, heavier. Kofi's heartbeat slowed unnaturally, and strange whispers filled his ears. Memories blurred, and for a moment, he forgot why he was here. But then, voice, Olivia's voice. He slammed into the ground. They had arrived. They stood in the ruins of a city that had no name. Towers crumbled into dust. Streets twisted into endless loops. This was the heart of the unseen realm. Kofi's breath hitched. The lost souls wandered aimlessly, their faces blank. But among them, he saw something that made his heart stop. A figure. In the distance. A girl with familiar braids. Olivia. She turned. For a brief second, Kofi thought she would run to him, but then her eyes glowed an eerie white. She wasn't herself. Kofi ran toward her, but Olivia stepped back. "You're not real," she whispered. Tears blurred his vision. "It's me, Olivia. I came for you." Her body trembled, and then suddenly her hands shot up, and an unseen force sent Kofi flying backward. Nya caught him just in time. "She's been marked," she said grimly. "Something has taken hold of her." Kofi gritted his teeth. "Then we take it back." Olivia stared at him, blank and unmoving. Whatever had her wasn't going to let go so easily. Nya drew an arrow, aiming it at Olivia. "If she's too far gone, don't," Kofi growled. "She's still my daughter." A low chuckle echoed through the ruins. A shadow slithered out from behind Olivia, its shape constantly shifting, two glowing eyes fixed on Kofi. "You should not have come," it hissed. Kofi stood his ground. "Let her go." The shadow tilted its head. "Why should I?" Kofi's hands clenched into fists. "Because I won't leave without her." The shadow laughed. "Then let's see if you can survive the bargain." Darkness surged toward him. The shadow lunged, and Kofi barely dodged. Nya fired an arrow, but it passed through the creature harmlessly. The thing wasn't made of flesh, it was something older. It wrapped around Kofi's throat, tendrils squeezing. "You came all this way," it whispered, "but she is already mine." Kofi's vision blurred. He wasn't strong enough. Then, a voice cut through the air. "Leave him alone." Olivia. She was fighting it. For the first time. The shadow hesitated, and Kofi saw his chance. Nya wasted no time. "There's only one way to break its hold," she said, throwing Kofi a small, jagged dagger. Kofi hesitated. "I can't hurt her." "You won't," Nya said. "But if you don't act now, you'll lose her forever." Olivia's body trembled, caught between forces. With a deep breath, Kofi stepped forward and pressed the dagger against her palm. The moment it touched her skin, the air exploded with energy. The shadow shrieked, unraveling like smoke in the wind. Olivia collapsed into Kofi's arms. But it wasn't over. The unseen realm wasn't done with them yet. Olivia gasped for breath, her small hands clutching Kofi's shirt. "Dad?" Relief flooded him. "I'm here, baby. I've got you." But the victory was short-lived. A deep rumbling shook the city. The spirits, restless and enraged, began to stir. The ground beneath them cracked. The unseen realm was rejecting their presence. Naya's expression darkened. "They won't let you leave so easily." A figure emerged from the mist, not the shadow, but someone worse. Monica. And she wasn't free. Kofi's heart clenched. Monica. She reached for him, but the barrier between them was stronger than before. "You saved Olivia," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But you can't save me." Kofi refused to accept it. "We'll find another way." Monica shook her head. "The spirits demand balance. A soul was saved, one must remain." Kofi's stomach dropped. No, I won't leave you." Monica smiled sadly. "You have to." Olivia clung to Kofi, tears in her eyes. "Daddy, we can't leave her." But the spirits had already decided. Kofi turned to Nya. "There has to be a way to free her." Nya hesitated. "There is one." The spirits murmured around them, waiting. "You can take her place," Nya said. "But if you do, you will never leave this realm." Kofi didn't hesitate. "I'll do it." Olivia's grip tightened. "No, Dad, you can't." Monica shook her head. "Kofi, no, Olivia needs you." Kofi's heart ached. He was willing to sacrifice himself. But as he looked into Olivia's eyes, he realized she had already lost one parent. She couldn't lose another. He had to find another way. And he only had minutes before the spirits made their choice for him. The air around them grew heavy, thick with unseen eyes watching. The spirits were impatient. A soul had to stay. Kofi clutched Olivia tighter. "I won't leave Monica behind." Nya stepped forward. "Then you must outsmart them." Kofi's mind raced. The spirits thrived on balance, on rules. If he could break their system, maybe he could take Monica without sacrificing himself. The spirits' whispers grew louder. The air shimmered. the barrier holding Monica flickering like a dying flame, Olivia clung to Kofi's arm. "Daddy, we have to do something." And then, the ground split beneath them. The spirits had made their choice. The city trembled. The ruins of the forgotten cracked, dissolving into nothingness. A deep, guttural voice echoed through the sky. "The balance must be restored." Nya grabbed Kofi's arm. "They're collapsing the realm. If we don't escape now, none of us will make it." Kofi turned to Monica. "Come with us." Tears welled in her eyes. "I can't, Kofi. The spirits still own me." "No," Kofi growled. "Not anymore." He reached out, and this time, when he touched her hand, the barrier shattered. The spirits screamed in fury. They had broken the rules, and now they had to run. Kofi held Monica's hand, pulling her forward. Olivia ran beside them, her small legs pumping as the city crumbled behind them. Nya led the way. "We need to find another gateway. The one you entered through is gone." The spirits surged after them, furious at the broken bargain. The very sky seemed to twist, pulling them back. Then, ahead, a glowing door, half-formed, flickering in and out of existence. "The exit," Nya shouted. Kofi pushed Olivia through first. Then, just as he and Monica leaped, the spirits reached for them, and everything went dark. Kofi gasped, air rushing into his lungs. He was back. The night sky stretched above him, the sounds of the real world crashing into his senses. Olivia was beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy," he held her, trembling. "It's okay, baby. We're safe." But then he turned. Monica was still lying on the ground, unmoving. "No," Kofi whispered, shaking her. "Monica, wake up!" She wasn't breathing. The spirits had let her go, but they had taken something from her in return. Kofi pressed his forehead against Monica's. "No, I didn't bring you back just to lose you again." Nya knelt beside them. "The spirits drained her." Kofi shook his head. "She's still here." "I know it." Then, a whisper, faint, fragile. Monica's lips parted. "Kofi." His heart nearly stopped. "I'm here." Her fingers twitched. She was alive, but something had changed. She looked at him with confusion. Who are you?" The spirits hadn't taken her life. They had taken her memories. Kofi's heart shattered. Monica stared at him like he was a stranger. "Abba," he whispered. "It's me." She blinked. "I don't know you." Olivia clutched Kofi's arm. "Mom, it's me." "It's Olivia." Monica's eyes filled with tears. "Olivia," she hesitated, shaking her head. "Why do I feel like I should know that name?" Kofi looked to Nya. "Is there a way to restore her memories?" Nya's face was grim. "If the spirits took them, they won't give them back easily." Kofi wasn't ready to give up. He had saved her once. He would save her again. Monica touched her temple. "I remember something." Kofi leaned in. "What is it?" "Darkness," she whispered. "Whispers. And a name." Kofi's breath caught. "What name?" She hesitated, then whispered it. "Quaim." Kofi froze. His best friend? The one who had helped him in the beginning. "What about him?" Kofi asked. Monica shook her head. "I don't know. But I think he's connected to all of this." And for the first time, Kofi began to wonder, had he been betrayed? Kofi wasted no time. He had to confront Quaim. He left Olivia with Nya and took Monica to the one place he knew Quaim would be, his office. When he arrived, Quaim was waiting, his hands folded. "Kofi," he said smoothly, "you're back." Kofi's fists clenched. "You knew, didn't you? About the unseen realm. About the spirits." Quaim sighed. "Yes." Rage burned in Kofi's chest. "You sent me there. You let me think I was alone." Quaim leaned back. "I had no choice." And that's when Kofi saw the spiral tattooed on Quaim's wrist. Kofi's blood turned to ice. The same spiral that had marked the gateway to the unseen realm was burned into Quaim's skin. "You were part of this." Kofi growled. Quaim's face was unreadable. "Not by choice." Kofi grabbed him by the collar. "Explain." "Now," Quaim sighed. "The spirits don't just take. Sometimes they make deals. I made one a long time ago." Kofi's stomach twisted. "What did you give them?" Quaim's eyes darkened. "Someone I loved." And Kofi knew. In that moment, that Quame's story wasn't so different from his own. Quame sat heavily in his chair. Years ago, my sister went missing, just like Olivia. Kofi stilled. He had never known Quame had a sister. I found the spiral, Quame continued. I followed the signs, and I made the mistake of entering the unseen realm alone. Kofi leaned in. What happened? Quame's hands trembled. I found her, but I couldn't bring her back. The spirits wouldn't let me, so I made a trade. Kofi's chest tightened. What did you trade? Quame exhaled. My future, my soul. In exchange, they let me leave. And now, it was coming back to collect. A chilling wind swept through the room. Quame stiffened. They're here. Kofi turned. Shadows pooled in the corners, the air thick with whispers. The dead is due. A voice hissed. Quame paled. They're going to take me. Kofi wasn't about to let that happen. No, he said. Take me instead. The spirits hissed in amusement. We do not bargain twice. Then they lunged. Kofi grabbed Quame's arm. Not this time. The room exploded. With light in the world went black. When Kofi opened his eyes, he was no longer in Quame's office. He stood in an empty void, cold and infinite, with only the whispers of the spirits surrounding him. Shadows flickered in the air, moving like sentient smoke. You defied us. Kofi swallowed hard. I only wanted my family back. A deep, guttural laugh echoed through the void. You took what was not yours. You owe us a debt. The ground beneath Kofi's feet shifted. He wasn't alone. Quame stood beside him, bound in spectral chains. The spirits weren't here for negotiations. They were here for their payment. The spirits loomed closer, their whispers turning into a deafening hum. Kofi glanced at Quame, who looked resigned. They won't let me go, Quame murmured. They never intended to. Kofi's hands clenched. Then we make them. One of the spirits moved forward, its form shifting constantly. A life was restored. A balance was broken. A price must be paid. Kofi met its gaze. Then take me instead. Quame's head snapped up. No, the spirits laughed. A willing sacrifice? Interesting. The void trembled, and Kofi felt something pull at his soul. But then, a new voice echoed, a woman's voice. Monica. Monica's voice cut through the void. He is not yours. The spirits recoiled. Kofi turned, and there she was, Monica, standing, strong, her presence glowing with an otherworldly light. The balance was broken, Monica said. But Kofi restored it. He freed me. He freed Olivia. That was the debt paid. The spirits hissed. You were marked. You should not exist in the living world. Monica held her ground. And yet, I do. A silence stretched between them. The spirits were uncertain. And for the first time, Kofi saw it. Fear. They were afraid of Monica. The realization hit Kofi like a thunderbolt. The spirits weren't omnipotent. They had rules, boundaries, and Monica somehow had broken them. Kofi stepped forward. You don't have power over us, do you? The shadows recoiled. Silence. But Kofi knew the truth now. You only control what we give you. You only take what we let you. The spirits howled, their forms flickering. The void itself trembled. And then, like mist in the wind, they began to fade. The darkness peeled away, unraveling like a frayed thread. The spirit's hold on reality weakened. Quame's chains shattered. His body trembled. Free for the first time in years, Monica turned to Kofi. We need to leave. Now. The void cracked. Reality itself was breaking apart. Kofi grabbed Quame's arm. Come on. Quame hesitated. What if they come back? Monica's eyes burned with certainty. They won't. Not as long as we remember who we are. With that, they ran toward the flickering light of the real world, and as they leaped forward, the unseen realm collapsed behind them. Kofi gasped as he hit solid ground. Grass, air, the real world. Olivia's voice rang in his ears. Dad! She threw herself into his arms, sobbing. He held her tight, his heart nearly bursting. It's okay, baby. We're home. Then he turned. Monica stood beside them, breathing heavily. She was real, whole, and Quame. He was alive, but his eyes were haunted. He had been trapped in the spirit's grasp for too long. Monica reached for Kofi's hand. We're finally free. But Kofi wasn't sure. Something still felt unfinished. Though they were home, something was wrong with Monica. She didn't remember everything. Her past was fragmented. Her memories incomplete. Some days, she was herself. Other days, she stared at Kofi like a stranger. Kofi refused to give up. He spent every night reminding her of their love, of their life. He told her stories of Olivia's childhood, of their dreams. Sometimes a flicker of recognition crossed her face. Other times, it didn't. But Kofi held on to hope. He had lost her once. He wouldn't lose her again. Kwame had changed. He was distant, always watching the shadows. One evening, he pulled Kofi aside. "They're not gone." Kofi frowned. "What are you talking about?" Kwame's voice was tight. "The spirits, they don't forget. They don't forgive." Kofi shook his head. "We broke their hold. We're free." Kwame hesitated. Then, he rolled up his sleeve. The spiral tattoo on his wrist, it was glowing. "They marked me," Kwame whispered, "and I don't know what that means." That night, Kofi couldn't sleep. He woke to whispers in the dark. At first, he thought it was a dream, but then he saw it. A shadow, standing in the corner of the room, watching. His blood ran cold. Then a whisper brushed against his ear. "We are always watching." Kofi's pulse pounded. He reached for Monica's hand, but she wasn't there. And when he turned, the bed was empty. Panic surged through Kofi. He tore through the house, calling for Monica. Olivia woke up, rubbing her eyes. "What's wrong?" "She's gone," Kofi said, his breath shaky. Then footsteps outside. He rushed to the door, throwing it open. Monica stood at the edge of the yard, staring at the trees. "Monica." She didn't turn, and then, in a voice that wasn't hers, "They are not done with us yet." Kofi grabbed Monica's shoulders. "Monica, wake up!" Her body trembled, her breath shallow. Then, her eyes cleared. "Kofi," he exhaled in relief. "You scared me." She blinked, confused. "I don't remember coming out here." Kofi swallowed hard. "I think they're trying to pull you back." Monica shivered. "I won't go back." Kofi held her close. "Then we fight." But deep down, he feared the truth. The spirits always collected what was theirs, and this fight wasn't over. The days passed in an easy silence. Though Monica seemed normal during the day, Kofi often caught her staring at nothing, her fingers twitching as if grasping for something unseen. Kwame stayed close, his expression grim. "The spirits aren't done with us," he said one evening. "They let us go, but they don't forgive." Kofi clenched his jaw. "Then what do they want?" Kwame hesitated. "You." The word sent a chill down Kofi's spine. "You broke their rules, Kofi. You stole from them. And now, they're coming to collect." Kofi's fists tightened. "Let them try." But even as he spoke, the wind outside howled like a warning. That night, the house was unnervingly quiet. Even Olivia, usually restless in sleep, lay still. Kofi sat up, unable to rest. Every instinct in his body screamed that something was wrong. Then, a shadow moved across the window. Kofi's breath hitched. Slowly, he stood and peered outside. Nothing. But when he turned, a figure stood in the hallway, a tall, thin shadow with no face, and it was waiting. Kofi lunged forward, but the shadow melted into the darkness. He rushed to Olivia's room, his heart hammering. She was still there, curled up beneath her blankets. But then Monica's scream ripped through the house. Kofi bolted to their room, nearly breaking the door in his panic. Monica stood frozen in the center, her eyes wide in horror. And in the corner of the room, a dark figure loomed over her, its tendrils reaching. "You cannot escape." Kofi didn't think. He grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and swung. The shadow dissolved, but its laughter echoed. This was only the beginning. Monica trembled in Kofi's arms. "They're trying to take me back." Kofi looked at her arms and his blood ran cold. A faint spiral was appearing on her skin, the same mark Kwame bore. "No," Kofi whispered. "I won't let them." Kwame entered the room, his face pale. "They're claiming her, Kofi, just like they did to me." Kofi shook his head. "We beat them once. We can beat them again." Kwame swallowed hard. But at what cost? Kofi didn't care. He would do anything to save her, even if it meant facing the spirits himself. Nya arrived the next morning, her expression unreadable. You have one last chance to make this right, she told Kofi. Kofi frowned. How? She hesitated. By facing the spirits in their world one final time. Kofi's pulse quickened. He had barely escaped the unseen realm once. Nya's gaze was steady. If you do nothing, Monica will fade. They'll take her piece by piece until there's nothing left. Kofi clenched his fists. Then I'm going back. Monica grabbed his hand. I'm coming with you. Kofi's chest tightened. No. Abba, she met his gaze, determination burning in her eyes. I won't lose you again. That night, Kofi, Monica, and Kwame stood before the spiral symbol, the same one that had led Kofi into the unseen realm the first time. Nya performed a ritual, chanting in a language older than time itself. The air around them crackled. Then, the ground opened beneath their feet. Darkness swallowed them whole. Kofi braced himself as they landed in the unseen realm once more. But something was different. The spirits were waiting for them. And this time, they had no intention of letting them leave. The spirits formed a massive circle around them, their faceless shapes twisting in the dim light. You return to settle the debt. A voice boomed. Kofi squared his shoulders. I came to end this. The spirits laughed, their whispers curling through the air. You have no power here. But Monica stepped forward. You don't own me, she said firmly. The spirits hissed. Kwame touched his glowing mark. They've been feeding on us, he muttered, stealing pieces of our souls. Kofi's eyes darkened. Then we take them back. And with that, the battle for their freedom began. The spirits surged forward, their shadows wrapping around Kofi. He fought, pushing against their hold, but they were stronger than before. Then, Monica cried out. Her mark was glowing brighter, pulsing. The spirits were draining her. Kofi roared, yanking one of the shadowy figures away from her. But it was too late. She was weakening. Then, Nya's voice rang through the air. Kofi, break the seal. He turned and saw it. The spiral symbol etched into the ground. The source of the spirit's power. If he could destroy it, they would be free. Kofi lunged toward the spiral, but the spirits blocked his path. They swarmed him, whispering his worst fears. She will forget you again. You will never be enough. You cannot win. But Kofi gritted his teeth. You're wrong. With a roar, he slammed his fist into the spiral. The ground cracked. The unseen realm trembled. The spirits shrieked, their forms distorting. And then the world shattered. Kofi gasped as he opened his eyes. He was back. The real world. His home. Olivia's voice was the first thing he heard. Daddy? He sat up, his chest heaving. Olivia and Monica knelt beside him, tears in their eyes. You did it, Monica whispered. We're free. Kofi pulled them into his arms, breathing in their warmth. For the first time in years, the nightmare was over. Days passed, and life returned to normal. Or at least, as normal as it could be. But sometimes Kofi still heard whispers in the wind. We are always watching. He didn't know if they were truly gone, but he didn't know one thing: as long as he had his family, he would fight for them. And no matter what, Monica's memories didn't return all at once. But piece by piece, she was healing. Kofi helped her, telling her stories, reminding her of their love. Olivia laughed more now. The house felt warm again. They had been through hell, but they had made it back. Together. One evening, Kofi walked outside and looked at the stars. He thought of Kwame, who had left to find his own peace, of Nya, who had disappeared without a trace, and of the spirits who still lurked in the unseen places of the world, but they would not haunt him anymore. He had won. Kofi smiled, turning back toward his home, toward his family, and with that, the unseen realm became nothing more than a memory.